Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Hey, Mike, how are you? Let's see. I'm not sure if the audio is working, so if you could let me know, that'd be great. Sorry for coming on so late. My kiddo hasn't been feeling good, so I wanted to make sure she was well and sleeping. All right, seems like everything's working properly. Mm. What's on the docket tonight? I'm thinking, I don't know. It's late. Maybe some hot takes would be fun. Talk about my opinion on overstocking. That won't get me thrown over the boat or anything. Controversial in the first 4 minutes of the stream. Yeah, I think hot takes would be fun. I think for my first hot take that tank sizes getting bigger and bigger and bigger is so weird. I think there's like an intersection where people like feel bad and humanize the fish and new science, right? So new science saying that a fish needs a bigger tank, right, is different than people going, oh, well, a better should probably be in a 20-gallon because I think so. Right. I also think that a lot of it comes from like gatekeeping, and bigger tanks are more expensive and more prestigious sounding or whatnot. Um, let's see. As long as you have twice as many plants as fish, you can't overstock a tank, in my opinion. I'm going to get to that in a second. High price tag. Welcome for coming. Welcome. Thank you for coming in. As long as you have twice as many plants as fish, you can't overstock a tank, in my opinion. I think you could obviously overstock a tank. Like, you could put like 100 arowana in a tank, right? Like a 100 gallon. You can put like 50 goldfish in like a 10 gallon, right? Like, there is like obvious, ridiculous limits to overstocking. But as long as your filtration's good, you're doing water changes, the fish are displaying proper behavior for their species, and the obvious, like, the fish is in a proper tank size for the fish that it is, right? I don't think that hard rules on overstocking are good at all. I think that a lot of what comes from like these standards is basic guidelines for beginners, and that's fine. But I think as we grow out of the beginner phase in this hobby, we see more and more of what we can do that might not be officially within the lines of what is set for beginners. Like, we can play with tank sizes and tank mates, and we can do a lot of things that aren't within the guidelines, right? We can change things and keep things that typically can't be kept together. But if you've had fish for a couple of weeks, you might not want to put a bed of fish in a community tank, for example. But if you've had fish for a while and you can kind of like see the behaviors that these fish are exhibiting, then it's completely different. Well, obviously, but real fish keepers aren't going to be obnoxious like that. No, they're not. But I have a 75 gallon with 100 fish in it, ranging from micro to medium cichlids. And it's a lot going on. But it's definitely not overstocked. And I would say it's at least 5 to 1 plant to fish. Oh, the ratio is like 5 to 1 plants to fish. So 5 plants to 1 fish. Yeah, I mean, even if you're looking at my tank right now, it is overstocked according to basic beginner guidelines. There is way more fish in this 20 long than a guideline would say that there should be. I also have a ton of plants, and I do regular water changes. I know my water parameters. Why is this blue? Hold on one second. Let me just switch that to green. But like, even in this tank, you can see that it would technically be considered overstocked. And I have lots of plants, and I keep up with my filtration. The fish are fine, right? We can see that they're exhibiting their normal behaviors. They haven't stopped breeding or anything. So it's fine. I'd like to touch again on the guidelines for beginners, right? I would say that the internet as a whole is very excuse me. I would say that the internet as a whole is more obsessed with these guidelines and trying to make sure everyone follows these guidelines, right? And I see a lot of frustration with that, especially like in groups with people. There's a lot of arguments, and I think it would be better if we didn't treat everyone like they're a beginner. There we go. That's much better. What kind of fish do you keep? I always go with a general rule of thumb of having the correct amount of filtration if a tank is overstocked and frequent water change, especially for bigger cichlids. I agree. Yeah, that's pretty much my exact thing. I also add um, making sure that the fish are in the correct size. And what I mean by correct size, I mean the fish can display its natural, how do you call that? Its natural habits, I guess, what it does naturally, like if it was out in the wild. I always bring back to the betta because the betta is the most mistreated fish, in my opinion, besides like goldfish. But I know more about bettas than I do goldfish. So when you're looking at like a betta fish in like a cup, right? It's not doing anything compared to when you see it in a 5-gallon. It's exploring its tank, it's moving around, and that's more of what we would want to see, right? Behaviorally. That being said, I add on that behavioral aspect to overstocking and the size. So I want to see the behavioral aspects I would see in the fish alone. I want to see that the tank is the correct size for the fish. All right, let me check. I have peacocks and haps. So definitely filtration water changes. The more you turn over, you can get into the water column. Hello, Yuio. Welcome in. What are we talking about? Hot takes. We're talking about hot takes, fishing, and hobby hot takes. Everybody is saying hi. Hello, June. Welcome in. Only Oscars. I would like to get a dedicated Haps African cichlid tank. Overstock is the only thing that worked for me for curving aggression in African cichlids. Yeah, I've heard that a lot about that. That there are certain fish that you need to overstock to curb aggression and other unwanted behaviors. But for what I want, it needs to be at least a 200-gallon. That's a little bit, a little down the road. Absolutely. Even with smaller fish, it definitely helps curb aggression. If there's a hierarchy in your tank, it helps. Yeah. I've noticed this a lot with tetras specifically, keeping more tetras. A lot of people say that 6 is the minimum for most tetra species. I would say 12. I really think that 12 is like a magic number from what I've seen. In a lot of these smaller tetras. I don't really have experience with bigger tetras, so I can't speak on those. But well, I mean, I like skirt tetras or bigger tetras, but I'm not, I would definitely get more skirt tetras or neon tetras or cardinal tetras, black tetras, any of those. What's your favorite hot take that you have? You're talking to the tetra guy. Yeah, I'm sure that's why you mentioned small fish, huh? How about um, chasing perfection is absolutely ruining the fun of your personal experience in the hobby. That's a great hot take, huh? I think that chasing the perfect aquascape, chasing perfect parameters, um, chasing things that are chasing like aesthetics or whatever it is that you're trying to make look or act or be perfect is ruining you enjoying your fish as they are. And fish keeping is so much fun. We don't need to turn it into a second job. We don't need to turn it into something that is stressful. I mean, look at my tank. My tanks are perfect. I enjoy my fish. I enjoy looking at my fish. I enjoy looking at the plants. But, nothing has to be perfect. I challenge all of y'all, if you're in that kind of mindset where you're chasing that perfection, to take a step back and realize like why you got into the hobby. Let's see. Yes, 12 is a great number, but I find over 20 does something even more awesome. It unlocks a whole new aspect of social behavior and grouping. I agree. I would always recommend more. But when we're looking at like minimums, I would say 12. Aren't African cichlids kept with other, I'm going to guess that means mates, like tank mates? Because they are the pretty ones. I've got a question for you guys if you don't mind. I've just got some plants yesterday. Should I add fertilizer to the tank or wait a bit for them to settle? What kind of, I'm looking in the chat and I'm seeing that you're saying that it's brand new. What kind of substrate do you have in that tank? That will help me better answer if you need fertilizer or not right now. I'd like to pick up some house together. Oops. males to this. Are African cichlids kept with other males because they're the pretty ones? Okay, that makes sense. Okay. I don't know. I don't know much about cichlids, to be honest. It's fertilized substrate, and I capped it. Yeah, you can wait. You can wait if you'd like to. I would, if you would like to dose fertilizer, I would make sure to keep the nitrate, right, under 40. I've found that at higher levels of nitrates with fertilizer, I get more algae. And like Mike asked, I would like to know what kind of fertilizer you'd be using. I would push the first and keep an eye on it as soon as you start. I would push the fertilizer and keep an eye on it as soon as you start developing algae, and then slowly back off it. Autocorrect, yeah, autocorrect sex. Yeah. I would be a little bit careful if you're using root tabs not to put too many together. Liquid, just follow the directions. Salts, follow the directions. I've kept lots of cichlids, not Africans. I have kept fish. My most aggressive fish is my betta fish. That's why I already asked about the root tabs. Great minds think alike. Yeah, just don't put them too close together. And always, as always, just keep your parameters in check, and it should be fine. It happens to me all the time. Let's do another hot take. Most beginner fish aren't for beginners. That's not really a hot take. That's a very mild take. Cold take. I think a lot of people that have been in the hobby for a while understand that these beginner fish, bettas, goldfish, tetras, guppies, aren't really for beginners. And I'm not saying that a beginner can't start with any fish. It's all about the research that a person puts in before buying any animal. I think that's truly my hot take. That there's no, you need to do research on any fish that you want. And this goes for any animal. Fish, snakes, lizards, dogs, cats, rabbits, mice, whatever animal that you want. You need to research first. I guess my hot take is really that any fish can be a beginner fish if you research enough. Mollies are a good beginner fish, in my opinion. Yeah. They're also pretty easy to treat because of the salt tolerance. I like this. Not a bad idea. I also find that a cube of frozen food does a lot better for startup and then just trying to use it, than just trying to use a flake or crumble. Isn't that up to the person keeping the animal? I agree. Research as much as you can. Yeah, I would say that any fish can be a beginner fish if you do the research. I mean, there are some people like you can, like price tag said, you can recommend molly, but if somebody wants an angelfish, they're gonna get an angelfish. If somebody wants an epistogramma, they're gonna get an epistogramma. Like as long as the research is done, any fish, as long as it's being taken care of. I think there's a lot of like gatekeeping. Like you have to do this before you get this, or you have to do this thing, or you can't do anything else. And I mean, there are some people who've only kept large fish. I think autocorrect is making an appearance because it's late. It said, I'm taking over. But yeah, I think that whatever a person wants to get, they're going to get. And that's just how it's going to be. So you can say, oh, you should do this or you should do that. But really, when we're trying to help a person, we should be asking, what do you want, right? Because I can list off 100 fish that I think are easy. Like guppies. Guppies. I have a ton of guppies. There might be guppy endlers, but I don't know. I'm not really a guppy or endler person, so I don't really know the difference. From my research on them, since I'd like to breed them more, more experience with just guppies, these look like endlers. Yes, prerequisite, please. That's funny. I like that. We love that. The prerequisite, please. I can't keep mollies alive or guppies. Same for me. Everybody said guppies were going to be easy. Most stressful fish I've owned by far. That includes cichlids in one of my community tanks. That was the opposite experience for me. June, when I first started the hobby, they wouldn't stop breeding. That must be so difficult. I mean, I couldn't imagine just being absolutely overran by fish when you first start out. Water quality is super important. And I think when talking to beginners, specifically, not everybody, obviously, but I think when talking to beginners specifically, we should talk about how important clean water is for the health of your fish. Oh my goodness. I'll be right back. 1 second. Okay, what was I talking about? I had to go check on Kiddo real quick. Water quality, I think, makes a difference. Yep. Shrimp die the moment they step into my water. I'd like to say another hot take here. This reminded me of it. We need to give beginners the grace to mess up. We need to give them they need the experience, of messing up. That's how most of us learned what was good for our water, for example, or what was good for us. We can give as much advice as we want, but we also need to give people the grace when they mess up or when they come to people for help. Something super simple. My tetra never bred until I started adding jackfruit and catappa leaves 3 years ago. I want to jump in on the shrimp. Never put shrimp in a clean tank either. I don't think they should sell you shrimp if you're buying a new tank. It's a bad idea in my opinion. Sure. A fish store is going to sell aquatic animals to anyone. They're there to make money. And that's fine, I agree and disagree a little. I think it's fine if you know what you're doing and you have other ways to feed your shrimp so they don't die. But, I'm a serial fish killer. I mean, most of us have been there. Welcome in, Stephen P. Hello, hello. We're doing hot takes. I love some hot takes. I was asked once about tank size when I bought 10 Oscars. I mean, I think that's a pretty good question. No, online sellers never do ask, do they? I don't think they can. How about another hot take? Sponge filters. Ugly, but amazing. I love them. Oh, it's quick and easy. There's no discussion on that. I love sponge filters. Sponge filters are great, even though they're ugly. Ugly and should be kept in a canister. I mean, a sponge filter is a sponge filter, even with a casing. Greatest untapped food source, sponge filters, that is. Yep. I catch my fish eating off of the sponge filters all the time. I mean, even in my 29 gallon where I have an internal filter and a sponge filter, I always see them picking off the sponge filter. Of course, in my 29 gallon, I have coolie loaches, so. Yeah, they are ugly, but you can pretty easily hide sponge filters with moss piles and used rocks, etc. Yeah. I also find that they work better when they're covered with a bunch of moss. Different type of filtration. It is the sponges are cheap and they're great. I mean, obviously, if you're trying to filter out things that need something more advanced than a sponge filter, you can use other filters. But I think that even if you're using other filters, you should use sponge filters. They're great. Great way to put air into your tank and get some added sources of multiple different things, food sources, bacterial crevices. Sponges have so many little itty bitty tiny places for bacteria to hide. Every canister I have is stuffed with sponges. So it's just a big old sponge filter. I clean my smaller sponges into my bigger tanks and then do my water change. Yeah. I just rinse my my sponges out in the sink. I mean, or my tub, depending on how big they are. Sometimes I'll squeeze them into new tanks or buckets. But most of the time I rinse them out in sinks, which is apparently also a hot take. It's fine. Beneficial bacteria doesn't just live in your filter. It lives in your sand and on your plants and on the glass itself. And every surface you could think of, but not in the water itself. Is it even a hot take to say that I don't like goldfish? I don't think so. I think a lot of people don't like goldfish. No one maintains quarantine? What do you mean by that? Like, huh? I don't mind goldfish, just not my preference to keep personally. Yeah. I mean, I guess this is another hot take, but people can like and dislike things, and it's completely fine. What isn't fine is attacking somebody over their preferences. I don't like goldfish. I don't really like short body fish either. I think that I wouldn't want to keep a fish like a fancy goldfish that has been proven to be unhealthy. And I think that breeding a fish that is unhealthy is not good. But I also see why people like them. And just because I have my opinions doesn't mean that other people can have the exact opposite. A lot of people don't. It's quite irritating. But they haven't lost an entire tank before either. Neither have. But that's because I quarantine strictly. I keep every tank separate, constant quarantine. Yeah. I mean, I like my quarantine tanks and I like my hospital tanks. Ideally, I would like them to be in another room. If I could, I would have a specific section for quarantined fish. You know, this isn't a hot take, but I was talking a little while ago with some people on Discord. We were talking about garlic in fish food. Somebody said that they didn't like it. So, like, the chat divulged into a bunch of different directions, but a bunch of articles were brought up, and it looks like garlic is really not that great for fish. It's really hard on their liver, apparently. Looking at the research, I might do a video on it or something. But I like feeding garlic. I feed garlic to my live bearers, but they're sickly little fish anyway. I also think that, like, oh, this might be a problem, but like in small fish, but small fish typically have a smaller lifespan. So I do believe that the fish that we're testing on were larger fish. So I'd like to see the same test done with smaller fish and checking on their livers. That is, hold on. Great minds think alike. That's creepy. I literally typed garlic right as you said it. This is okay. Oh, mine's a 6-week minimum with a hard garlic push for the second week, and then meds if needed after that. And 6 weeks of being completely parasite or concern free. And I was just talking about how I was looking at those articles about how garlic has been linked to in several studies about increasing the liver size of fish. Oops. As a vampire, I'm against garlic. It's not letting me pull up comments anymore, so it's all glitchy. Oh, good. I'm like at the end of this computer's lifespan. Let's see. I also don't buy fish from big box stores. That's probably one of the best ways to not get some pretty severe fish illness. I treat garlic like a medication. I think that's best. I do the same thing. I'm not completely against garlic, obviously. I just think it's really interesting that that's happened, right? That there's research directly. So the thing about scientific articles and scientific research papers is that you can't solely make a complete decision based on looking at scientific articles, because they're only typically one part of the whole puzzle, right? I'm more concerned about my wild caught fish. Tank bred hobby fish has some leeway. Yeah, I definitely think wild caught fish definitely need more attention when it comes to quarantining and making sure that they're healthy before putting them in with other fish. Also, if you're using garlic correctly to treat something, it's going to affect water quality and pH quite a bit. Yeah, I also wonder the effectiveness of garlic that's in food. It has to go through some sort of like heating process. A snail just fell. That's funny. Um, yeah, it's just another piece of information. And just like all information, you kind of have to with all pieces of information, you're going to have to take from that and make your own opinion. Most fish related studies focus on food fish. Yes, they do. Um, and they're typically larger fish. I think I was talking about that earlier. How I'd like to see more studies done on smaller fish because you can't really compare a large fish to a small fish or a long living fish to a short living fish. You would add them with other tank bred fish and you've had no problems. I've added wild caught fish to tank bred fish tanks. Yes. My Oscars are now a food fish. You can eat Oscars? Ew. Oh, I googled it and they started talking about fish tacos and Oscar fillets. That is not something I wanted to see. Ew. Catch and cook tiger Oscar. Ew. Google? I don't know. Never mind. I should have never Googled that. Nope. That was horrible. Having what's Oscar nuggets? Absolutely not. No. Rock Island. Yeah, it's too late. I already looked. Gross. Going on a little deep dive right there. I don't know if I want to eat an Oscar. They're in the tilapia family. Tilapia. Tilapia looks more like food. I think it's more that most food fish are gray or silver or brown, like all one color, no, very little pattern. Let's see. Let's see. Happy birthday, George. Welcome in. Seeing some stuff in the chat. Let's talk about oh, Big Man Blastoise is on the screen. That's my big one, you're right. I don't know if I want to think about giant invasive Oscars. Yes, only Oscars. Please make a video of your fish. I like them. I like seeing them. So let's see, it's from mining. I'm thinking this is from the Amazon discussion that was happening. Hold on. Let's see. I love seeing other people's fish and fish tanks. I like hearing people talk about their stuff too. Anything that somebody talks about, like that they're passionate about, I like hearing. I think we're um I think we're ready for another hot take. How about, let me think. Hmm. We've gone over so much already. Ooh, let's go back into fish food and feeding a single type of fish food is worse for your fish than low quality fish food. Try your best not to feed low quality anything. Yeah, no filters in your food ever. The more natural, the better. Live food is great. I like live food. I think that live food is the best food, but prepared food of high quality is great too. Um, I think that freeze dried and frozen food should be more popular, as well as keeping your own live cultures. I think that keeping your own live cultures is like a second, like sub hobby of fish keeping. That's why I use limited pellets. Yeah. I try to give my fish at least 4 different types of food. I also like mixing my different live foods. Um, you can put um, things like krill, freeze dried krills. Um, you can put like things like freeze dried krill into like a grinder of some sort and take like a pinch of that powder and put it in with like your frozen brine or live brine shrimp and like squish that all up and they'll eat both the brine shrimp and the dried krill. You can do that with any really dry freeze dried food. What is freeze dried mealworm? Has more protein than live mealworm. What Mike said, yeah. That's because of the water content. My cats also love the freeze dried bugs. Yeah. Science is weird. I don't know why. I saw an argument. This is totally unrelated to fish at all. I saw an argument online about instant noodles. And somebody was saying the instant noodles, when you just use like all the instructions and you put water in the instant noodles and cook them, they have more calories than when they were dry. I'm like, I don't know. Like, is that how that works? I don't think so. Is it the same thing with fish food? I don't know. Is it rehydrating inside the stomachs of the fish? I rehydrate all my freeze dried. I rehydrate all my freeze dried foods before giving them to my fish. A lot of people had problems specifically with the freeze dried bloodworms, thinking that they were bad, but they were just expanding because they didn't put them in water first. I feed freeze dried mysis shrimps and I soak them sometimes overnight. I put all the supplies away. It was relaxing, smoking. A cat walks in with a 5 pound bag of river shrimp in his mouth. Oh no. Yep. That's a cat thing. I think I'll do one more hot take and then I'll switch over to the Madaka in the morning stream. Hmm. I feed it right out of the freezer. That's frozen. I was talking about freeze dried. Frozen foods. I mean, it depends on the fish. Some fish won't eat them frozen. Some fish will only eat them frozen. Some fish don't care. Like my gambus, yeah, I could probably give them sidewalk gum and they'd eat it, like they don't care. Let's see. I think. Okay, my last hot take. Oh, I had one, and it was great. It was the greatest. No, I'm just kidding. I don't remember what it was, though. I hate when that happens. You're like, oh, that's really good. And then you look at something and you totally forget. No, I'm going to spend a couple minutes trying to think about what that was. Hold on. Not knowing where your fish, snails, plants are coming from is irresponsible and a problem when it comes to ethics. If you don't know, and in general, we don't, where a fish is coming from, how do you know if it's ethically sourced or not? If you don't know where a plant was taken from or harvested from or farmed from, how do you know that it was farmed? Or taken ethically? in good conscience, do we know that all of our fish are ethically sourced? Oh, it's like one of my hottest takes. Holy crud. Does anybody ever have nightmares about their fish and then wake up to have to check in the morning? Absolutely, I have. I had a nightmare about like one of my tanks like exploding. I woke up and I had to check all my tanks for leaks. If you're planning on reselling fish to people and breeding, yes, you absolutely need to know the source and what country those fish came from and how they were sourced. Yeah. I mean, I still think that we should be more in tune with where our fish are coming from, no matter what. I can't say that my coolie loaches, which were very obviously wild caught because of the age where I got them, I can't say how they got to the fish store I brought them from. And I feel like everybody should be a little bit more in tune with that to make sure that our animals are ethically sourced because we don't typically know. CC, if I'm ever in your area, we need to have some dinner. This is absolutely insane. And just talk up fish. My wife thinks you're pretty badass too. She's a fan of your art and wants to get some. That'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely. If I'm going to hopefully um end of stream so I can talk about all this. As of May 1st, I am pushing art commissions to help me get my travels to the Keystone Clash. Art will be available at a discount until I hit my goal. As a 25% discount starting May 1st. So if you want a commission, I highly recommend that you get it in May. So all of May, I'm doing 25% off and or until I hit my goal of the travel costs that I need. I need help with the travel costs, so I'm selling art at a discount. I hate people asking people for things, so I'd like to give you all something. I'm doing things from like basic sketches all the way to full art pieces, depending on what you want. I will have more information on that soon, but this is my first time announcing it. Obviously, I will always sell art, but it depends on how long it takes me to reach my goal. I need to know exactly what my goal is. That's why I'm kind of taking a couple of days from announcing it to like officially announcing the goal and whatnot. So Wednesday, I will fully announce that I am I'm doing an art sale to help me go to the Keystone Clash. I like to watch where I plan on getting fish like a stalker. I've emailed prior buyers to check. I'm not just a stalker, I'm a private investigator when it comes to where my fish are from. She loves photography and wants to get some of her pictures painted of the new blue polar cichlids. How large have you done before? Would you be fine doing something 11 by 14? My art is digital, so it can be any size. I just have to make sure that I am within the limits of digitally printing. So, yeah. Findig is next week. Getting excited. That's awesome. I'm going to the Lone Star Cares convention in June, and I'm really excited for that because that's coming up real soon. When is what on the Oscars? Okay, Wednesday, I will be doing the we'll be continuing the book from the 1800s. I'd like to do 2 chapters on Wednesday, depending on how everything goes. We'll see. The Clash is. Let me look at my calendar. Hold on a second. I have it. Calendar. The Clash is September 26th through the 28th. Hold on, let me check. Yep, 26th through 28th of September. So I have some time. That's why I want to start now. Get everything in order so I can go. What was I saying before? Oh, I was talking about Wednesday. Yeah, we're going to read the same book again. I'd like to get a couple more chapters done. And I'll fully announce the art thing because the next day is the first. Hold on. If you get my art in the new Fish Punk trading cards, if you send me a picture of it, I will give you a 5% discount on art. Also, I just want to see it. And so, if you get one, please let me know. That's the Fisher and Punks trading card. I did a collaboration with Outside In Aquatics, where I drew one of the cards. So that's fun. If you do get one of the cards, please let me know. Send me a message, email, Discord, Instagram. And if you want art, you can get an additional 5% off. Only Oscars, didn't you want vowels from me? And they'll come with the snails. Even if I'll pluck them off, put them in a container separately. I put magnets on his cards on my fridge. Yep. But yeah, if you get the one, it's Vintage Victoria. The Vintage Victoria card. If you get that one, then yeah. Here, let me link. That is a long link, but there you go. That's the Outside In Aquatics website where you can get the Fisher and Punks stickers, and the trading cards are currently sold out. But yeah. But yeah, it's the Vintage Victoria card that I did for that. It was amazing working with Outside In Aquatics. Those were fun. I got to like share a bunch of ideas and like the background on the cards, design and stuff. It's definitely inspired by I waited so long on I waited so long to tell you guys about this. It's been in the works for a little while now. Before it even like got announced, it was a while. Let's see. So a little bit of background on Vintage Victoria. I used the imagery of a ball jointed doll because Hans Belmer created ball jointed dolls for his photography in the 1930s. The inspiration for the doll, like the appearance, comes from three actresses from the 1930s: Adrienne Ames, Jean Harlow, and Constance Bennett. It features a Metaframe tank, and the Metaframe tank brand was started in 1931. So I tried to keep everything 1930s related. So that's the inspiration behind that card. Really cool stuff. Really cool to be able to work with outside in aquatics. All right, y'all. I'm gonna hop off here, and I'm gonna go over to hold on, let me create that stream real quick. Let's see. And then I'll hop off of here and chat with you in the chat over there for a little while before I go to sleep. Favors good. Good night, everyone. All right, let me grab the link for y'all. But it should be up on my channel. All right, everyone, thank you for joining. And I hope you all have a great night. I'll see you over in the other stream.